Okay, so I just wanted to give an update on what we think is an extremely exciting new project for the city. So, BNJC. So, this is the hero. This is the hero shot of what, please God, it will look like in about 9 months' time. And I just talk you a little bit through this image so you understand what's going to be on the site. And I'm also going to remind you of the major goals we have for the project. So, effectively, if your back is to New Church Road, you're looking at the site here. There's 4 buildings. The West Block, which is mostly apartments, but on the ground floor there's a restaurant and some community space, like a mini JW3. The Shul, which is in the middle, it's the smallest building. It's a double height Shul, all on one level for seating. But it's the most impressive building, and it's deliberately in the centre as a statement about the importance of that building on the site. Then the East Block here, which has a nursery on the ground floor, and then has apartments going up to the penthouse. And then the back is a row of 10 news houses, which are beautiful. I mean, eight of them are over 2,000 square feet, and they're really high quality. I'll talk a bit more about that in a second. And then underground, we've excavated, and there's a car park for 56 car parking spaces to accommodate the 45 units of accommodation on site. And there's a mikveh and some other facilities in the basement. So it really is an ambitious project. And I'll tell you more about the history in a second. The goals of the project, I just wanted to mention and remind you of. The key one is to revitalize the Jewish community in the city. And the view we took when we got involved in this is that Brighton is an amazing, amazing city. I think we all agree on that. And it skews young, it's a young population, but the Jewish population is not quite as young as the rest of the population. And what we felt was that by building the infrastructure to support observant Jewish life and Jewish life in general, we had a chance of attracting young couples and young families to the city, and that's our intention. So revitalizing the Jewish community is definitely the number one goal. We're also looking to rebuild for Brighton Hove Hebrew congregation their own congregation. It's important that the Orthodox community in the city is strong, and we have hopefully put them on a sound financial footing, and they have a set of facilities which are going to be beautiful. The shul is really beautiful, you'll see that in a second, which can help them. The third is, we really see this as an asset for the national Jewish community. There really aren't too many kind of coastal cities in the UK which are vibrant for vacationers. And we think both nationally and internationally, Brighton could be a hub which people will come and visit in the knowledge that there's a mikveh and a shul and a kosher facility and beautiful community rooms and so on. So we do, I mean, that's been probably the biggest surprise to me in sort of going through this process over the last couple of years of building. As we've invited 1 or 2 rabbis down to the site, they've almost without exclusion said that once we're up and running, they'll bring their communities here for Shabbat Onim and also youth groups and so on. So that's going to be, I think, quite a big dividend from what we're doing. And then the final one is we want to create an amazing asset for the community. You know, when we had the topping out ceremony, we had the local MP, Peter Carl, come and speak, and I said to him, this is going to be the biggest community centre for the Jewish community across the UK, and certainly across the south coast. And he said, no, it's going to be the biggest community centre, not just the Jewish community, the biggest community centre. Because there really isn't too much like this. So we see the opportunity to reach out to the local residential community and, you know, around the areas of Sussex to come and use the facility. And in fact, we need them really, because both to build bridges and financially to make this work, we need active participation. So a little of the history. It actually started back in 2015, a fortuitous conversation in which we heard that the shul were potentially going to sell through a retirement home provider, and we thought, that actually it was a mistake and there was an opportunity to develop the site. Then in 2017, the chief rabbi came to speak in Brighton, Raleigh Hall, and he launched the new initiative. And his words were that we should be a beacon of light to communities, and that this project should put Brighton on the Jewish map and the Jewish world on Brighton's map. And that, as you can see from the original set of goals that we have, is exactly what we would like to do. And that was a very well-attended evening, and I'm glad to say today is really well-attended, and it's really heartening to see so many people that I don't know. It's better that you don't know me. Anyways. And then just sort of going through the images here, the top left there is the when we just got the site. So we had to demolish the buildings that were on there to rebuild. And I remember in December 2019, there was a board meeting for PHHC, and we said, we need you to be out in January. And Martin, who was on the board at the time, said, so in 13 months' time. We said, no, 2 weeks. And so that was 14th of January 2020, and we've been on site now for 2 years. And the second image there is of the mikveh, the concrete pour for the mikveh, which was overseen by Rabbi Rader, Rabbi Halperin, and one other rabbi, his name escapes me. But the mikveh has been an amazing piece of work, and Rabbi Rader's been absolutely tireless in his detail and making sure that we get it right. We've actually had Rabbi Posen, who's a 95-year-old man, a rabbi from Israel, and I think he's built mikvahs in every single continent in the world, and he came over and actually went down into the mikvah, 95 years of age. I think Bob almost had a heart attack, but he managed to get back up as well, so it was good. And then finally, this is the topping out, as it was at the topping out back in June of last year. And now, if you go to the site today, this is all bricked in, the windows are in, the petitioning is up in most of the different buildings on site, and it's watertight, the roofs are on, and the first fix in terms of the M&E is all in, the wiring and so on. So we're really making a lot of progress. We have over 100 people on site every day, and the momentum is there. And our goal is, and we're working very hard to try and achieve it, to be on site in September, ahead of Rosh Hashanah, so that the community can use the shul for the Hagim, and also to get the new residents able to occupy their homes for September, ahead of the academic year. And certainly the 2 classrooms, I'll talk about the classrooms in a second. We have 2 classrooms that we're building for St. Christopher's, the school next door, which they use during the day, and it comes back to the community in the evenings and the weekends, and we should have those ready as well. So there's a lot of focus on trying to achieve that. It's not a slam dunk, as you've probably read in the press, supply chain issues, labor issues, and so on. So we're doing our best, and we hope and we pray, and please God we'll do it, but yeah, that's the target. And then we think that the main facilities, the restaurant, the co-working space and so on, will come on stream probably beginning of 2023, maybe for Hanukkah this year if we can, and then it will be a huge celebration obviously around Hanukkah. So this section starts to talk about the facilities, and this slide is really important because this really says everything about what we're trying to achieve. This shows the vibrancy. You've got young people, you have a dog, you have various things going on in this image. And what this is you're in the courtyard looking into the West Block ground floor where the restaurant cafe space is, and then above is the co-working space. And the great thing about the project is that every day, because the people living there should be 120 odd people living on site. There should be 40 to 50 people in the co-working space every day. Then there's the nursery and hopefully a lot of local residents using the site. So the idea is that the facilities will engender a lot of use every single day, and it should become part of everyone's life. And certainly everyone in this room and way beyond, we hope that you will see this every day as your opportunity to go and socialize and have a coffee and have a bagel and have a very, very, very nice meal. So we've got an outstanding chef I'll talk about in a second. And just enjoy the facilities. And that's the way in which if the community supports the project, then the project will support the community. So some of the facilities. The most important part of any Jewish event is food. And so the guy here is Yanir. Yanir has become a great friend of ours. He is an Israeli chef. He was trained by Gordon Ramsay. He's outstanding. He's the head chef at Novelino in London. Novelino Bistro, it's a meat restaurant. And he is Baal Teshuva, and he's decided that this is his calling, and he's coming with his family to live on site and to run the whole of the food side of what we're doing. And the food side is impressive. We have a meat restaurant, which is going to be very high quality, with opportunity for people to eat whatever their budget. There's a milky hot drinks and cafe area during the day. There's a bakery, and there's a kosher shop and deli. So there's a lot going on food-wise, and we've deliberately built a really large meat kitchen because one of the things we want to be able to do is to support simchas and large events on the site. So the configuration of the site is such that you can have a 200-person wedding, over 200-person wedding, both in terms of seating in the shul, which I'll talk about in a second, and also the flexible space by joining the sort of restaurant seating area into the community rooms. There's a sliding wall which accommodates that. So what we hope is that people will see Brighton as a chance to have simchas by the sea and have an amazing time. And that's a big part of what we're doing. So education is really paramount to the whole project. And the nursery, which has a capacity for 30 kids, Montessori Jewish curriculum nursery run by Penina, with a lot of young teachers coming down to the city to be involved. And that is the most important thing. And when I talk a little bit later about the residential units, our real goal is that there should be many, many, many young couples coming to the city so that we can see in the future we could have a full nursery, and then in time, please God, there's demand for school. Because we can see that if we can build a virtuous circle by having infrastructure which drives demand, which means more infrastructure and more demand, that's the way we're going to revitalize the community. And so having those young couples is absolutely the key thing in this project. Co-working. So the co-working space, and one of the other things I wanted to say, just thinking back to the last couple of slides, is I talked about Novelino and then talked about Penina and Gems, which is the name of their nursery. And here we have Work Avenue. What we're trying to do is not reinvent the wheel. We want to work with people who are absolutely expert in what they do, bring them to the city and use the incredible assets that are part of the Jewish community nationally. And Work Avenue is a great example. We had Work Avenue on site visiting us last week, and they were really excited by what we're doing, and we're going to have an opportunity for people, for example, people who are seeking jobs, they can get excellent advice in CV writing and interview skills and so on, remotely by zooming into the staff of 10 in London with Work Avenue, who can provide that advice, and they'll also be down. So it's a hybrid, in-person and remote model which we're pursuing with them, which will allow us to deliver a lot of the charity which they deliver in London as a matter of course. And also the facility itself is really nice. There's office space around the perimeter of that first floor that I showed you earlier, allocated seating and hot desking. So there's a range of opportunities which in a post-COVID world is incredibly important. Events. So, in order to create the vibrancy that we want, we're going to be holding events every day and throughout the day. And what we have on site is 2 community rooms which are available all the time, and then 2 classrooms which, as I said, are with St. Christopher's in the day but come back to us in the evenings and the weekends. And that gives us an opportunity to host clubs and classes and so on. And we've already started that. So most of the events we've done so far have been virtual, but we've done some really beautiful things. We had, for International Women's Day last year, this incredible panel which consisted of the University of Sussex, the Taub Centre in Israel, which is a think tank out there, Natasha, our trustee who's here today, who chaired the event and did an outstanding job, and the football club also represented what we want to do is look at the assets in the city and also the assets in the national Jewish community, and this was a great example of that. And we have a number of partners going forward. LSJS used to be Jews College. Jo Greenaway, the CEO there, has been really blown away by what we're trying to do, and she's been a huge supporter. And you'll see at the back, there's a number of choices of classes that they've offered to do for us. That's been held up now. I don't know who's behind the board. And what we would like you to do, please, is just tick 3 of those 10 or so class options, so we have a sense of what the choice, the demand is for the different options available. So LSJS is a big partner for us, and JW3. And JW3 have suggested to us that we might use the name for our program in JWB, Jewish Brighton, and we may take them up on that. But Raymond, who's the CEO of JW3, has been really helpful to us in talking about co-commissions for comedy evenings and that sort of thing, and also zooming some of the events that they hold in their hall down to Brighton. So that's going to be an important part of what we offer. And the shul. The shul is really going to be beautiful. This is sitting in the shul when the standard capacity is just over 100, and to the right, as you're looking at the screen, there's blue glazed terracotta screens, which is the signature beautiful design of what we're doing, and the sapphire colour, which is a hint to the sapphire 10 commandments, important colour in our religion. And then on the left, there's planting, and we've put a lot of effort and investment into the landscaping on site to really make it a peaceful place. And the concept is dappled light, a place of tranquility, spirituality, and it's really going to be very special, the shul. And on Kol Nidre for weddings, the back wall of the shul comes away, and we can spill out into the community space, and then capacity goes up to 270 people. So it's that community space is really the sort of pivot of the whole site to allow us the flexibility. So residential, just want to move on to residential for a second. We are starting to sell and give more detail on some of the units. And we have a brochure which is on your table. The name of the residential complex is called Sapphire Hove. It's very exciting. I think the brochure is really high quality. Thanks to Jasmine for helping design that. And there's a lot of information in there. And soon, probably in a month or so, we'll release the actual prices of the different units. So far, we have over 400 registrations of interest for different types of units on site. So we're optimistic on the demand, but what we want to make sure is that, as well as creating demand, that we have something for the future in terms of the community. Next slide. So, the most important announcement today. There are about 22, 23 two-bed or one-bed apartments on site. And our plan is to hold most of those back for rental. And the reason is that if we're going to attract young couples to move to the city, then what we have to do is give them a chance to sample. Because you can't expect people who've never lived in the city before to come and buy day one. So by keeping a number of units back for rental, and the 2 beds are perfect for this because it's perfect for a young couple, it gives them an opportunity to see whether it's for them, and then if it is for them, to potentially come and buy them in due course. So it also helps in terms of growing the demand, but most importantly, the community. And the key thing to know is that there is going to be financial support for young couples moving to the area, because we recognise that there is costs involved in moving, and there's a philanthropic endeavour here to try and revitalise the community. So there's going to be good, strong financial support to help young couples. And that will extend, as well as moving costs, to the facilities on site. So, for example, we can subsidise heavily the nursery. Now, nursery fees are very expensive, so if we can save some of the young people who are potentially going to have their kids in nursery 5 to 10 grand per child per year, that, in terms of earnings, is massive. And so that type of initiative is something we really wanted to make you aware of today. So there's a lot of strong financial support, and the fact that these properties are available for rental. And then these are the Muse houses. This is Fig Tree Walk, one of the 7 species. So the Muse houses are getting pretty close now. We actually had a tour of Muse House 9, which is now plastered, and it's really amazing. I mean, Muse houses can be many different things, but this is spacious, it's light, it's over 2,000 square feet, 5 bedroom, 4 bathroom. There's a private garden at the back, there's a shared garden at the front, and there's a terrace. Underground parking for 2 spaces. So it really is amazing. And we have, as I say, Yanira is going to move into one of them, and we've already got a reservation deposit on another. But we really want to sell these, and we really want you to let your friends and family know of this opportunity, because if we can get, if these are filled with young families, then it'll be an important part of the project in terms of vibrancy as well. And this really is the quality of living. I mean, you're 500 yards from the beach, you've got an underground car park, and you have all these services. There's 24/7 security and concierge service through the day. There's all the kosher facilities I mentioned before, co-working, leisure facilities and so on, and obviously the shul and the mikveh at the centre. So, for the right family, I think it is really amazing living. Particularly, you can imagine a Frum family. My son goes to university. His biggest kind of stress every day is getting to morning minyan. If you can roll out of bed and just go down into the shul, that's a big thing. Of course, not everyone is Frum, and there's loads and loads of facilities on site for people who are not Frum. But this is for young people to really bring the community back to life, which is the goal I sort of articulated right at the start. And that's why we've done the rental in the way we have. And that's why we're subsidising, or there's a subsidy involved in the way I just mentioned. So this is the big ask. All of you in the room here will have tens, maybe hundreds of people you know outside of Brighton. If you contact each of them, you make a really focused effort at listing, writing down everybody you know who doesn't live in Brighton, and ask them to whether they would like to consider owning a unit or renting a unit, particularly for young couples. B, if they know other people, then that will serve a huge purpose for us in terms of getting the message out there. We all have a shared love of Brighton. You, more than anybody else, can be ambassadors for explaining to people what an amazing city this is and what an amazing facility this is going to be. So you are potentially our most powerful and effective marketing communications. So please, the one thing I would ask of you today is spend 10-20 minutes, write down the list of all those people, reach out to them. There are postcards, actually, you can send them postcards in the old-fashioned way and tell them about what we are doing, and try and get young couples who are going to be pioneers and really want to make a difference and can be an important way of shaping the future of our community, to come down and consider living here. So that's the most important thing. The second thing that we're asking, there's only 2 things. The second thing we're asking is to let us know what type of events you would like to see on site. I mentioned before that we have the LSJS list of options that we would like you to fill in. But on top of that, there are post-it notes on your table. So if you just let us know the types of event, the types of club, the types of education you would like to see on site, we will take that into account and we will try and provision for that. One of the things I didn't say before in terms of education, if you have young kids, and I'm glad to see a lot of young people here today, is that irrespective of which school they go to across the county, at the end of every day, we're going to ask you to bring the kids to the site, have a bite to eat in the kosher meal, they can chill out for a little bit, and then there's going to be informal education, whether it's modern Israeli history, Kodesh, Hebrew, whatever it might be. So it may be Pilates, nothing to do with Hebrew, but that's what we want to do to encourage that social fabric. So this is a journey for all of us, and you can see how to stay in touch. I just wanted to say, I thought it was really interesting. Yesterday's Parsha was Teruma. Teruma is about the building of the tabernacle. And Teruma means portion, and it's all about what we can contribute individually to this journey. People in partially it talks about gold, silver, goat's hair. So it doesn't have to be big, it can be small. So the thing we're asking today, as I say, is reach out to all of your networks and really let people know about this. The way that we are going to change the kind of fortunes of Brighton going forward is through community and through everyone in the room really taking a stance and being out there and letting everybody know about what we're doing. Thank you very much for your attention.